Hello guys, today we will continue our lesson regarding to agenda number 3, Initialize setup. You guys already studied about the platform concept of person mode, right? So now we will go to the Initialize setup configuration on the FortiGate. So we have many lab platform that we can do the lab. Anyway, in this video, I will show you with the VMware workstation, right? Because the VMware workstation more stable than the other lab like PNet, EV, or Oracle VirtualBox. Because we have some feature that we require high performance or stable lab to do the testing or demo to you as well. All right. For lab topology, as you can see, it is very simple design. We have the WAN one, and we will use the static IP 10.10.10.0/24, and WAN 2 will be use the DHCP, and we have the stats IP or subnet is the 192.168.10.0/24, and DMZ as well. And this lab topology we will set up in the VMware workstation. So we need to understand about the network preference or network adapter that we need to use in the VMware workstation. I will demo you in the lab for this one as well. Alright, before we initialize the FortiGate, you need to understand the default setting first. As you can see in the slide, we need to understand about what is the default IP management, or what is the IP that we can access to the FortiGate for initialize config. As you can see, we have two types of the device that we need to discuss here. One is the high-end model, and another one is the mid-range. Also, we need to understand about the entry level as well. So the default IP 192.168.1.99/24 with the high-end or mid-range model. All those devices have the dedicated management port, right? So we can plug the Ethernet cable to the port for initialize. Anyway, for the entry level model, we have the port 1 or internal one for the default setting of the IP, and you can access to this IP as well. As you can see, right, we have the entry model from 30 to 90 series is the entry level. So this one is the device that don't have the dedicated management, so we need to access with the port 1 or internal one for administrative access to the device. For mid-range to the high-end, ultra high-end, normally they have the dedicated management port, so you can use that port. Okay, so this is what we need to understand about the default setting. And from the default as well, we have the ping, HTTPS, SSH protocol enabled on the interface, like management dedicated or port 1 or internal one. And we need to understand as well about the DHCP, yes, because with the entry level model, the DHCP server is built in with the interface internal one or port 1. Okay, and another thing that we need to understand about the default login. As you can see, the default login is user admin and password blank. And normally, the password will be a lot to confirm to reconfigure, or we need to reconfigure the password after you log in successfully at the first time. Okay, so this is you need to confirm and you need to modify the default one. Okay, and for another method that you can access to the FortiGate instead of dedicated management port or port 1 or internal one, you can use the console. So you need to understand some command line that you need to configure your firewall. And you also can use the terminal emulator like the PuTTY or TerraTerm or any command line that you need to use in your window or something, yeah, you can use. Okay, so this one is the default setting that we need to understand. First, IP, administrative access protocol, built-in DHCP or not built-in DHCP, user and password that we need to know this basic before we initialize the FortiGate firewall. Okay, after you understand about the default setting, another thing that you need to understand is about the FortiGate relationship in between FortiGate to the threat intelligence. Like we already study in the FortiGate threat intelligence, right? So this one is need to valid subscription service. As you can see, we have the 4 main points. The first is internet connection and contract valid for something like FortiCare or any UTM ATP license that you need to activate on your box or on your FortiGate, right? So you need the internet connection. And this one we already studied too about the FortiGate relationship, right? About the FortiGate distribution network. We also can use the FortiManager to deliver it. Okay, so in case you don't have the internet connection, you can activate offline with the FortiManager as well. Okay, and for FortiGate distribution network, we have the data center in North America, Asia, and Europe as well. And in case you don't allow your firewall to the internet, you can use the FortiGate distribution network through your FortiManager. Okay, and by default, if you don't change any data center, and FortiGate will prefer the nearest data center based on your time zone setup. For example, if I set up time zone GMT 7 plus Bangkok, so the nearest data center that I allow the FortiGate to connect is Asia. Okay, and two things that you need to understand: if you have the internet connection contract valid, you make sure that your FortiGate can connect to the FortiGate distribution network in Asia, America, or Europe. You need to understand about the two things at the package update and light query. So this one is the requirement or prerequisite that we need to allow your firewall to the threat intelligence or connect to the FortiGate as well. Package update we will use for FortiGate antivirus like signature update, yeah, also the IPS. So the requirement that we need to allow is update.fortigate.net and TCP port 443. In case you have the FortiGate direct to the internet, it is okay, but sometimes your deployment will be under the server farm or DMZ or under another internet X firewall, right? So you need to understand and allow this to the FortiGate threat intelligence as well. And another thing is the light query. This one is really important for the web filtering, also the DNS filtering and anti-spam. As you can see, we have two domains, service.fortigate.net, and we use the UDP port 53 and 8888. Yes, and another one is the secure.ws.fortigate.net with the protocol or service over the port 443, 53, and 888 as well. Okay, so this one you need to understand and allow your firewall to connect to the FortiGate subscription or FortiGate distribution network to package update, light query, any information that need to connect to the threat intelligence. All right. Okay, so after you understand about subscription service, we go to another step is about the administration. Administration that we need to create here, we need to create the admin profile and also the user for allow the IT administrator or network or security administrator access to the firewall as well, right? So the first thing that we need to create is the system admin profile. Anyway, you can use the default profile as well, like super admin, right? So you can use this one. After you create the administrator profile in the system administration profile, you can create the system administrator. Yes, you can go to system administrator, create new administrator, and you can input the username, also password, confirm password, and admin profile that we just create in the system admin profile. And also you can use like two-factor in case you have the FortiGate in place. You can use the two-factor authentication as well. Also the restrict login intra-host. Yeah, this one is a recommendation as well in case you have the specific network or traffic that we need to enable to restrict about the IP address or host access to the firewall for chain configuration or something like that. Okay, regarding to administrator access to the firewall as well, we have two methods. One is the CLI. Yes, you can use the console, SX, Telnet, or GI will get on the FortiGate. Yes, and also you can use the GUI, something like web browser, HTTP or HTTPS. In case you have the Forti Explorer, you also can access to your firewall as well, make some configuration change or something that you need to monitor your firewall. Okay, so this is the method that we can access to your firewall. And after you understand about the method, okay, we need to understand about the system setting as well. Normally, we can change the default administration or administrative port like ASH. You can see default is 22, right? So you can change to another port that like custom or non-default port. Easy to custom or follow your administrative port. Yeah, this is the another requirement that you can follow. Also the HTTPS, you also can change default port as well in order to make the attacker or something that allow attacker to scan or check the port for recognition to access your firewall, right? So you can change it. And the idle timeout as well, following some compliant framework. They recommend to change, for example, like 1 minute or 2 minutes. Yeah, so we can change as well about the idle timeout. And default is a 5. Also the password policy. You can see by default, normally password scope is, minimum length is 8, and also no require any special structure. Anyway, you can enable policy, password policy as well, following your requirement. For example, minimum length, minimum number of new character requirement, password expiration, or allow password to reuse. This one is important as well for administration access your firewall. So you can custom use it, make sure it properly configuration in the system setting. Okay, so after you understand about the FortiGate relationship, admin and admin user profile, yes, also the default setting from factory, method access to your firewall, yes, and system setting, right? So we need to understand about the administration access protocol as well. So this one we need to enable on the interface of the network. For example, if you have the dedicated management interface, you can use administrative access protocol on that port. In some scenario, you maybe create another management VLAN or another dedicated interface for administrative access as well. For example, this one, we go to the network interface and select interface that we require to allow the administrative access for IT admin, network or security administrator access to the firewall, right? So this one will be allow those user or administrator to access. And the recommend to enable the administrative access is allow only the security, a secure protocol, for example, HTTPS, S8. Yes, and for ping, you can allow or not allow based on your requirement. And in case you have the security fabric in place, you can allow the security fabric connection to allow your other security fabric device like FortiAP, FortiSwitch, or downstream FortiGate, or any FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, and other product or the Fortinet to connect to each other for the security fabric. Okay. Okay, so now let's go to our lab for demonstration from the first thing that we need to set up. In the workstation, you have the virtual network editor. You can see by default we have the VMnet 0 and VMnet 8. Okay, so in my lab I will use the VMnet 0 for brick connection. In our topology we will use in the WAN 2, right? And WAN 1 we will use the WAN 1 we will use the VMnet 8 for network 10.10.10.0. Okay, and we will connect like other hosts, for example Windows or other machine that need to connect to the FortiGate. Example, in our lab we have the Star and DMZ, so we will use VMnet 2 or VMnet 3 or VMnet 1. I will show you later. So you just focus only the VMnet 0 and VMnet 8 for WAN connection. I can show you as well about my visual network editor. Okay, so you can see VMnet 0 is bridged to my wireless network adapter. You can choose the automatically or specific interface that you want to choose as well. And my VMnet 8 for NAT, you can see I can set up the subnet IP, also the DHCP setting in case you require. Okay, so now go back to the FortiGate virtual machine, edit virtual machine setting, and after that you will see my lab. So network adapter, I will use the VMnet 8 because I will use the network 10.10.10.10 for WAN 1 and bridge the DHCP to WAN 2 for ready remote for ready to do the SD-WAN as well. Okay, so now let's start the VM. Okay, now it opened successfully, and this one is blank. So in my lab I already set up it, so you can enter the password is blank, and you will confirm the create to new new password and also the confirm password, right? So to configure WAN 1 as the static, I need to configure the system interface, edit port 1. And I can show the current config as well. So you can see my configuration is static, and you can see my IP is 10.10.10.10. All right. And in case your port 1 with the DHCP by default, you can do the command like set mode static. So when you do this mode static, you are able to configure the IP in that interface. So you just set IP 10.10.10.10. Yes, your subnet mask, and then set allow protocol administrative that we need to allow your IT administrator or your user to access to the firewall, right? This one we already studied. Okay, for example, S8 fabric. Okay, and to save you need to write command N. Okay, you can get system interface. Or you can show system interface. Yes, you can see the command get to show the current running, and command show to see the current configuration on your interface as well. So now let me try to ping to that IP. Oh, I forget to share with you in my network adapter. If you want to reachable, you can go to your network, change adapter option, and you go to the VMnet 8, and after that you can set up IP, any IP in your VMnet 8, Yeah, for example, I use the 210.10.10.10.200, and let me try to ping to that IP we just set up. We cannot reach because you can see my interface port 1 is set status down. So I need to edit port 1 and set starter app. Okay, and let's try to ping again. Okay, so now we can reach to the firewall. Okay, now we can reach to the firewall, right? So we can try to access with the GUI. Okay. Okay, process. And you type the user and password that you just config in the VM CLI. Alright. And normally, if you use the VM like my VM, you will require to upload the license. Anyway, if you use evaluation, it is okay for the first time log into the firewall, right? So we just study after we can log in, right? So we need to create the user. For example, you can use the default default admin profile. We have the super and pro professor, a prof admin. You can create new. For example, you can check the permission as well, following your requirement. For example, I use the help desk. Okay, so I set the permission read only for FortiView, user and device, firewall, log and report, network. Yes, also the system. Okay, and I override the override the idle timeout. For example, 1 minute. Okay, so this admin profile have permission read only for the FortiView, user and device, firewall, log and report, network, and system. Okay, after that we create the administrator as well. You can put, for example, help desk and password. Confirm password. Okay, and you can select the admin profile that we just create. In case you have two-factor, you can use it. Okay, you don't have, you can disable it. For example, you have to enable the threshold, right? The recommendation from Fortinet as well to allow the restrict source to log into the firewall, so you can select it. In this lab, we will not use. Okay, so we can log out with the help desk. Okay, so now you can see we have the permission to see the FortiView, network, firewall policy, log and report. Yes, and you cannot create anything. You can view only. Okay, so now let's go back to default or full permission user. In my CLI lab, I already show you about the configure administrative or set allow protocol, right? So this one, administrative access, we also can do in the GUI. Following slide, so you also we need to enable here, right? Okay, so make sure you enable only the secure protocol like HTTPS, SSH. Yes, to access to the firewall. In case you need to allow SNMP radius For the initial access, whatever you can allow based on your requirement. Anyway, for the administrative access should be only HTTP, S and SH only. Okay, so you can set up any network requirement following your require. Okay, so my lab, I will use this one for the static. As you can see, manual. I already show you in the CLI as well. And this one is the DHCP. Okay, so you can bridge. So in next lesson, we will study about the network setup, also the basic SD-WAN and routing as well. Thank you for Initialize lesson today. Thank you.